kids. Fuck the kids? Yeah.
You have just tuned in to the Mag Nerd Podcast, your home for everything in music, anime, and gaming. What is up, guys? Showing up the King here, back with another video, and today it's time to do my review for Masters of the Universe Revelations on Netflix. If you guys hadn't had an opportunity to see my previous video, please make sure you go check that out. Link will be in the description below, and it will probably be in the annotations of the end of this video. It is just kind of my preview thoughts on what I thought was going to happen in the series, and it just kind of, had like, it was more of a rant. This is going to be like a straightforward review. I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and just kind of give my perspective on what I thought of this show as a whole. First off, if you guys saw my last video, I was not a happy camper with any of the changes, any of the, gender politics and just things of that nature. I just thought that this, for a show that's rated PG, I just thought there was just so much crap going on and just so much like warfare being thrown on both sides. Now that I've actually had a chance to watch it, I can honestly say that some things were just taken out of context and some things were just blown up out of proportion. So before I even get started, I want to just clear the air on those things. First off, there was a lot of people out there saying that Teela and I guess her name is Andrea, I can't really remember, were lesbian. They were lesbians. That was her girlfriend. And even if it wasn't that they were overtly trying to like close, I don't think that's the case at all. After watching the 5 episodes, it's clearly just their friends. It's no different than Bakugo and, Midoriya from My Hero, where I would even say that, but because they're like frenemies almost. But like if you've seen any show where, guys are like really close, but they're like legitimately friends, that's kind of what this was in the show. Like, I didn't sense any sexual tension between the two of them. I think they held hands like once, and I think they just looked in each other's eyes, but in a friendship way. I didn't see any sort of like, oh, they're, queer baiting. So I said that in my previous video, but after actually watching the show, I didn't see it. If anything, I would say that Teela and Adam had more relationship tension or sexual tension between the two of them than Teela did with Andrea or whoever that girl was. I think her name was Andrea. I can't remember. She wasn't very integral to the story. And that was the other thing. Also in that video, I said that that they basically, she didn't really have any talking lines and that she was basically like a background character. And she definitely had speaking lines throughout every episode, and she played and she was there the entire time and did her thing as a tech person. But I don't think that she got any less screen time than Teela. I know Teela had the most screen time, bar none. Second would probably be between Adam and Andrea, and Adam in a funny way, but we'll get to that. So those were the two main things that I wanted to get out there first before I actually gave the review, just kind of talk about those two things. But one thing I do want to confirm is that yes, 100%, this was Teela's show. This show was groomed that she would be taken over as the master of one of the masters of the universe. And it was that. So again, I know when people say Kevin Smith lied, he did lie, because again, when the show was initially presented to the fans, the 80s fans of the original show, it was premiered as a He-Man show. Like the first trailer was presented to us as a He-Man show, and then they tried to do a flip and change on us. That no one can argue that is just straight up and down, just facts. So then what they tried to do was the actual first official trailer and the second trailer. Then they tried to slide in the fact that, oh, this story is about Teela, but that was already after the fact that people were already pissed off that Teela was the main vocal point of this show. So let's actually get into the actual meat and potatoes of this video. What did I think of Masters of the Universe Revelation? And the quick answer is that I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either. And that's actually more detrimental to the series as a whole. Like, quite honestly, I was just bored. Like, I watched all 5 episodes, and by the end of episode 2, I was kind of over it. As simple as that. Like, it just made me think that Netflix honestly did not have a lot of faith in the show. Me personally, I don't think they had a lot of faith in the show or Kevin Smith, and it's for one main reason: they only gave him 5 episodes. The fact that you were able to try to do all of this stuff in 5 episodes does not ring like it was given a lot of confidence or a huge budget. Now, if and what I mean by that is if you actually go and look at other shows, like even go back and look at She-Ra and the Princess She-Ra, the Princess of Power, She-Ra and the Princess of Power, the first season of that had 12 episodes. Let me just go look right now, just to make sure, because I know people are gonna try to call me out on it. Because I know, because I watched the first season of She-Ra, I didn't love it, but I watched the first season and I got through it. Yes, so the first season of She-Ra had 13 episodes, and then it ended up going on for 5 seasons. This show, the first season, or part 1, I guess if they're trying to call it, only had 5, and part 2 has not been greenlit. So let's be clear. Like, Kevin Smith even came out and said that he hopes that they greenlight part 2. So we'll have to see. But again, honestly, I don't see a reason for part 2 to exist. The show wasn't that. I don't think the show was good enough to get a part 2. I just don't. And even once the storyline is where the storyline is going, I still don't think it deserves a part 2. But again, we'll get into that. So what is the story about? Story starts off episode 1. And I think episode 1 is probably my favorite episode of the entire 5. And it felt to me like it had the greatness of the 80s with the feel of the structure of the show. And I just think it went progressively downhill after that. Like, even the part where He-Man kind of, did his I have the power thing, it gave me chills when I watched the first episode. Like, I loved it. It like took me back. And it has kept going on after that. And again, it was just good. Then what ends up happening, long story short, He-Man is in his final battle with Skeletor. Skeletor tricks He-Man. He-Man dies, but in order to save the universe, he splits his sword in 2, and all the magic in Eternia disappears. Then we get to the biggest controversy that I have with the actual show itself. Is the reason why Teela leaves is because she finally figures out when Adam saves the universe that when He-Man saves the universe that He-Man was Adam. So when she gets back to the castle, she has this big fit like, how did you not tell me? And she storms off and says, fuck you, fuck everybody, and just leaves. And that is such the most used trope that I hate in television, cartoons, and everything, is that when there's a secret out there, when that person finds out whatever the secret is, they get pissed off. And I'm like, in a real world context, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, yes, he lied about who he was. Is that really big enough deal for you to roll out and just basically abandon all your friends and abandon Man-at-Arms in your position and just basically be like, fuck everybody? No, that's stupid. And even as the show progresses, you see how stupid her decision is as things go along. Like later on, she finds out that Oracle is dying. She didn't give a care about what happened to Oracle. We found out Cringer later, and these people are like talking to Teela like she was like this huge part of their lives. And you just don't realize that she left all of you guys on stuck and just rolled out. Didn't think twice about none of y'all. And then an episode or 2 later, she reunites with you guys. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, Teela, oh, I love you. You were so close. I'm like, yeah, y'all say that, but she rolled out on y'all in like a hot second because Adam lied. It did not sell me on her as a character. Like I was just like, to me, I was just like, I get you being upset, but for you to basically abandon your role as Man-at-Arms, something that you had been fighting for this entire time, the only people that I felt should have been upset was Adam, the King, because again, the King was right to be upset at the old Man-at-Arms for not keeping that secret from him, and even he could have been mad at Moms for her keeping it because the mom knew, but she never told the dad, Adam's dad. I could get his anger 100%. Anybody else, I'm just kind of like, is it really that big of a deal? And even they try to explain it later on in episode 5 that the reason why she was so upset was because she didn't get an opportunity to mourn her friend because she was so bad at him. And again, it just didn't ring like it made sense to me at all. So again, I didn't like it. So let's the nitty gritty. What did I like and what did not like? What I didn't like. Animation. Love the animation. Like the guys, the same studio that did Zeus, the same studio that did Castlevania. Love both of those. The animation of both the show. The animation in this show was spectacular. Could not have been any better. The voice acting. I actually really like the voice acting as well. The only thing that was kind of weird was Merman being voiced by Kevin Conroy. It really threw me off because it just literally sounded like Batman. And then who was the other one? Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's character also sounded like the Joker. So it was just a little weird, but those roles were not big enough to really make that much of a difference. So the animation and the voice acting were spot on. The only thing that I will nitpick is that I didn't love Sarah Michelle Gellar as Tila. I thought I would, but I just thought that her voice was weird and it didn't actually fit. It didn't actually fit the actual character itself. I kind of thought that Tila would have a more gruffer voice, if that makes any sense. Like she kind of looks like she's real buff and strong, and it's like Sarah Michelle Gellar just has like this really like soft, effeminate voice. I know it's weird, but it just let me know if you guys understand what I'm coming from. Like again, I didn't hate it. I just felt like it didn't fit the character itself. So, what I didn't like, again, why did I think the show was boring? I thought it was just really paint by numbers. Again, I didn't think that 5 episodes was long enough to establish Tila as a believable character who should be taken over as the new master of the universe. I didn't think that anything that she did in the show was noteworthy to just kind of like cheer and jeer about. I thought the action was weak. Again, I thought the action was very weak. Like none of the fight scenes, even in episode 1, got me hyped, like to the point where I was just like, yo, this is crazy. This is like, I'll give you guys a prime example. There was a show on Netflix that I still think to this day was probably one of the most underrated shows that came back from my childhood, and I think that they did perfect. And that was Voltron, the Legendary Defenders. That show went on for like 8 seasons. And even that show, its first season had about 11 episodes, and this show only had 5. So again, I just think that's very weird. Voltron Legendary Defenders was an amazing show, and it only got better each season. And the animation in that show was fantastic. And beyond that, the fight scenes in that show were absolutely stellar. I challenge any of you guys to go back and watch that show. It's just so fucking good. It blows this out of the water. Like honestly, I would almost say some of the fight scenes in the first season of She-Ra were a little bit better than Masters of the Universe Revelation. The best part about Masters of the Universe Revelations was the original Man-at-Arms. Like Duncan was absolutely fantastic. Like he had some of the best fight scenes in the entire 5 episodes, hands down. Like just go back and if you watch the 5 episodes, he had the action scenes out of everybody. So let's talk about the big controversy, and then we'll get out of here. So episode 5, they go to Paternia. Adam is dead, but I guess that's his version of heaven. And they reforge the Sword of Power and they escape, only for Adam to get stabbed through the chest again by Skeletor. And Skeletor becomes Skell God, and it kind of just ends the cliffhanger with Adam lying on the floor with Tila holding him, and Skeletor claimed that he's the new master of the universe. And you can kind of tell now that probably if there's a part 2 greenlit, Tila will probably use the power sword because either He-Man is dead or he is critically wounded and can no longer become He-Man, whatever. Again, overall, I thought it was a really horrible move because, again, at the end of the day, this show was supposed to be, the fans that originally started watching this show came here for He-Man, and they blatantly try to switch it up because of this whole agenda in Hollywood to make women more prominent in these shows. And again, something that I do not have in Edit's face, I do not mind women becoming the vocal point of some of these shows. But my only caveat is that why can't you guys do something new? Why are you taking already older shows that already have an established fan base and already have expectations for those products, and then you just try to shoehorn people and say that your way of thinking of these shows is wrong. Women have to be the focal point now. We're going to change it all up. That's the part that I don't like. Like, again, I said this in my last video. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love Tomb Raider. All these like female-led characters, like I love all of those shows and I watch them, but these are original properties. Like, I don't like it when you take something that's already been established and try to switch it up to try to say women power. Like, I hate that. It just irks me. And again, I know a lot of people out there want to try to call me incel or whatever the case may be. I don't care. I just don't like it. And it's not that I hate women. Again, and I kind of would use the same example where if you were watching Spider-Man, if there was a Spider-Man reboot and they decided to kill off Spider-Man and make Mary Jane the new Spider-Man, that would piss people off. Because people did not come here to watch Mary Jane as Spider-Man. They came here to watch Peter Parker as Spider-Man. That's just as simple as that. You can't take an established property. If you want to make a female Spider-Man, just create a brand new character, make it Spider-Woman, whatever the case may be. Those derivatives are not as bad as you just basically just trying to gender swap and just try to cut out the main character, but you try to keep the fan base that came along with it. You don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to sit there and say that, hey, anybody that was a fan of He-Man back in the day, you want to come watch this show? Oh, we're going to take your character, kill him off, and make a female the lead protagonist. But hey, as long as you guys are just not incels, you'll love it, right? No, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So again, like I said, I don't want this video to be super long. I did not enjoy Masters of the Universe Revelation. Again, do I think it's something that is worth a watch the first time through? No. I think this is very skippable, and I think the people that are out here review bombing it, if you're just review bombing it without actually watching the show, that's counterproductive. But if you're actually just leaving your general thoughts on it, then that's fine. But honestly, if you guys want the best way to get your point across to Netflix, is don't watch the show, do not buy the toys, and this show will not continue. It's the same thing with Thundercats Roar. Like, the show wasn't watched, and it just didn't survive. So do the same thing. Ignore this show and again, I think everybody wants to talk about it this weekend, but start next week, just don't even talk about it anymore. Let it die in the trades. Don't give it any play and just move on, and people won't watch it and they won't get us part 2. And that's as simple as that. So again, that's what I think on the Masters of the Universe Revelation. I don't want to spend too much more time on it. This is Sean Off the King. Have a good one. Peace.